you have a phenomenal list of qualifications. Your resume is really extraordinary. But your experience with the Air Force and intelligence agencies and wherever you've worked, like I assume you're applying that to create a realistic type of simulation for the everyday person. But this isn't just some out of the blue stuff. You have extensive experience that feeds into your ability to construct these simulations.
Well, our whole staff does. So Larry, I won't give his last name. He's an intelligence official as well. Steve, who's with us as well, former Army intel. So we have a lot of intelligence officers on the staff who contributes information. And our goal is hyper-realistic scenarios. If you're looking for the Walking Dead, walking zombie stuff, probably not going to happen. So we want these things to all be very plausible, things that we think are going to happen at some point, depending on how long we can survive before one of these things knock us out. But this is an artificial intelligence case. And if you got the time, I think that people greatly misunderstand the threat of artificial intelligence. They're thinking about it wrong. The AI threat is what you're seeing here this week as an example of it. Can I talk about that, or am I going off topic?
No, absolutely. Go for it. I mean, I'm working on an AI project right now, so this should be a fun conversation.
Intelligence officers, we're trained to be very careful and critical in our thinking. There's a company, Colorado Springs, called JMark. I work with them. They train intelligence analysts. And you have to be super disciplined, careful, methodical in how you analyze and do assessment. Because otherwise, if you just use what's up here and what you think, you're going to make a lot of inherent errors. And the big error we make in artificial intelligence is every time you talk about it, people think of 2001, the Terminator, Battlestar Galactica. So we think the AI threat is that computers get super smart, they get bad. There was a Star Trek episode on that back in the 1960s. They use robots and drones, and they do all these horrible things. That is not the big AI threat. The big AI threat is today from bad people using AI to kill people. So right now in this scenario, they've used it to develop better, faster, easier means to enrich uranium to make nuclear weapons. Another scenario that's going to be coming out, and this is not made up, this is stuff that biologists are warning about, you're going to use bioengineering, DNA engineering to make a more deadly virus to wipe out most of humanity. That's a scenario coming. That's the threat of AI. It's bad people misusing it out. What is AI being used for right now? It's being used to design drugs. Well, don't you think some terrorists, or Al-Qaeda, or North Korea, Iran, Russia, China, the list goes on, or even a biologist who thinks that there's too many humans and the only way to stop global warming and save the earth is to kill off most of the people? Someone is going to use AI and CRISPR technology, bioengineering. They're going to design a more effective virus. They're going to release it, and billions of people will die. Some from the virus, probably more from starvation and the collapse that results.
Well, you're absolutely correct. AI is very good at generating. It's called Chat GPT, generative pre-trained transformers, I believe is what that stands for. But it generates solutions, including morphological solutions that can be used by CRISPR technology to alter the genetic sequence and build bioweapons, and then even to simulate how that new morphology, the protein receptors would interact with human biology. So you're absolutely right on that. I just want to add that AI, the thing that AI is best at today actually is writing code. And if you go on to GitHub, there's a tool there called Copilot, and GitHub, I believe, is owned by Microsoft, and so Microsoft has this Copilot tech. Copilot writes code extremely well. If you are able to describe a project to it, it can write code. Now, while Microsoft has what are called guardrails, that if you tell it to write the Stuxnet virus code that was used against Iran, and you probably know that Stuxnet was a very big project involving U.S. and Israeli intelligence, and it might have been hundreds of millions of dollars put into that. You could do that today with the language models in about one day with one person. That's how much it is advanced. So if you get an uncensored model and you ask it, hey, write the code that can penetrate this control system of a water treatment plant, or a nuclear cooling system or a petroleum refinery. The code can be written today by AI if it's uncensored. That exists also.
Correct. You're exactly right. So, you could design a better cyber attack to take down the electric grid than people could do on their own. And again, that's going to happen. And that's not future, 3 years from now, robots and AI has this capability. This is capability today to take down the grid, to design a new virus, enrich uranium better, you were talking about domestic terrorists earlier. Why don't you use AI to develop a far more effective poison? So instead of having to dump a truckload of chemicals into the New York City water system, 1 gallon of new poison X that I've just developed with AI, dump that in there and it's fatal dose for everyone in New York City. Jeez. All these things go. And then AI is going to invent new means of killing us we can't even think of today.
That's true.
So again, I'm not afraid of the bad computers and bad robots. I'm afraid of the bad people using the computers and AI to have new ways to kill us. I think it's almost inevitable that, I don't see how you stop AI at this point, nor do you stop CRISPR technology. I think it's too late.
It's out of the box.
We have to be preparing for it. And I'd like our government to be honest with us, for Christ's sake, and tell people, this is a threat from AI. We're not going to be able to stop it. H5N1 is mutating in mammal populations. It's called a mixing vessel. It makes it more effective for H5N1 to adapt to become human-human transmissible when it's not just spreading in birds, it's spreading in your domestic cats. Am I making that up? No. They've reported this. The World Health Organization reported this last year. Domestic cats all over Poland have H5N1, indoor domestic cats. They're not outside getting H5N1 from a dead bird. They're inside, and they've got H5N1. So it's going to eventually mutate naturally to virus 60% lethal that'll kill humans, or someone's going to help it along. And I was very suspicious about why Poland with domestic cats, but who's next door to Poland? Well, Russia is, Belarus. And so I thought, is Russia mad at Poland? Yeah, they sure as hell are. When we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline that was based out of Poland, Poland's helping Ukraine. So when I saw that, we actually put out an alert saying that, we're speculating, but we're really concerned about this, not just because of continued H5N1 mutations towards the inevitable human-to-human transmissible version, but this looked to us like this is something Russia could be involved in. Because if Russia wants to release H5N1 over here and kill us off, they don't want to be blamed for it. So they want a good cover. And what's a better cover than, it's just a natural mutation. It's been happening. It was happening in cats.
Well, that's exactly
releasing it over here.
They covered the tracks with COVID in the same way. Oh, it escaped from a food market in China that just happened to be really close to the Wuhan lab. I mean, come on. But yeah, bioweapons and also agricultural weapons. Don't forget about that. So, the U.S. has been involved in a lot of that research over the years, which we always claim it's for defensive purposes, but not really. But, Russia's been involved in that research, China as well. There's a lot of bioweapons research that can target the agriculture, cattle ranches. There can be pests and other threats against the hogs and the chickens and the cows, and it can really destroy a national food supply without being able to trace the origin. But I want to finish up the thought on AI and ask you, well, the large language model that we're building, which is at Brighteon.ai, the first knowledge base that we're building into it is herbs and nutrition and growing food and so on. The second knowledge base is prepping and survival information. So we will have, I believe, the only language model in the world that you can download and use locally that actually can function as a prepping mentor. It will answer your questions about prepping and survival and preparedness. I'm wondering if there's a way that you and I could collaborate with, maybe you have access to additional content that we could use to help train the model. Is that something you might be open to?
Yeah, I'd be interested. The other thing is, maybe there's somewhere where they can access your database via the Collapse Survivor app. That might be another opportunity to explore.
Oh yeah, well, we're looking at ways to be able to run this language model on mobile devices. That's under investigation right now. It looks like it's going to be possible to run a smaller version, fewer parameters that will run on mobile devices with pretty decent inference speed. we should keep in touch about that and see if that's possible. And maybe we could have a custom model that's trained on a lot of your content that even could be trained on, for example, your scenario text as reference material. So people like you and I who want to see society function and succeed, and we don't want to see people die, we can use AI for good purposes as well.